All right, welcome everybody to the Zenith Endurance Podcast. I'm your host, Derek Edel,
I'm Rodrigo Balmaceda.
and joining us today is our guest, Sam Castle. Sam is currently running for O'Gorman High School, specializes in the 800. Sam, welcome to the show.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate being on here.
It's nice to have another fellow O'Gorman man here.
Yeah, Gorman's a pretty cool place. So good to
Yeah,
be a
yeah.
part of it.
So you're running for O'Gorman now, but it sounds like you've had quite the journey to arrive there. Tell us a little bit about your experience going through, a couple different teams and how you ended up at O'Gorman.
So yeah, I mean, overall, I'd say my experience was, pretty average. Um, I started in my freshman year, and I was one of the slower guys at the beginning of summer running at Roosevelt. Um, then it became a lot of hard work. You know, kind of developed a little bit of a chip on my shoulder because there were some guys that didn't like me very much. So hard work, wanted to prove them wrong, blah 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 blah. Got up to seventh by the end of summer running, so I was barely on varsity. And then there were some good JV guys. And this is in cross country. This is in cross country. So there were some good JV guys that were close to my times, and so I was always on the chopping block. So that pressure put me to work harder every day, basically, keep me hungry because I didn't want to be on JV. So I barely held on to it my freshman year, and I wasn't really struggling with any injuries at that time. I was, just kind of doing my own thing, feeling healthy, feeling fast. My freshman year cross country PR was 17:58, and I dropped that down from first race at Mac Butler was a 1946, I believe. So there was kind of a difference. I had a really successful season, really good, laid the base for my love for running for sure. Um, well, I guess my love for running kind of goes farther back than that because I've been running ever since I was like 4 or 5, and that's just with road races because I'm a running family and stuff. So there's that, and then so I stayed there through my sophomore year. Sophomore year, I continued to be really successful at Roosevelt with Coach Wagner. He's a great coach. Really set me up for success. And so then I had track off my freshman year because of COVID. Sophomore year cross country, we came back. I actually was pretty successful, but I did have COVID during my season. So I ran with that for a little bit, which was not fun. But I ended up at state PRing with a 17:20, which was, ecstatic for me. I think I barely got all state. I was 23rd. So I felt really good. That set me up to be really hungry for track. And then Roosevelt didn't really have a super solid off-season training program. So I went and worked with Benson, and Benson whooped my butt basically. He put me through, 30-minute started at 30-minute runs, built up to 50-minute mileage runs, 75-minute long runs, some workouts sprinkled here and there. I mean, it was hard work, and I wouldn't be where I am without Benson. So huge thanks to Benson. He's great. And then I came into my sophomore track season, and I remember this because this is kind of a story of how me and the seniors were at that time, and it changed throughout the season. We're all buds now, but we're walking out of track practice a week before our first race, which was down in Omaha at that time. No. It was second race. The first time I was running the mile. So our second race was down in Omaha, and it was my first time running the mile in high school. And I looked to the guys, and I'm like, you know what? I think I'm gonna go break 5. And they laughed at me, and they were like, come on, man, like maybe like 5:05. And I was like, all right, guys. So anyways, that kind of made me a little angry. So I had a little extra fuel there, and went down and I ran a 4:55 mile. So I hit my goal, and it was really good mile. I felt really solid about it, and I just built up from there. I started out with a mile that year. I went 4:55. A couple races later, I went 4:46. Then I went 4:48, and I went 4:40. And then I don't know if you remember the Mendel's, Rod, but did you ever race against the Mendels?
I don't recall any.
So there's this guy at the time named Zeb Mendel, and he was like basically the Simeon Birnbaum of South Dakota at that time, king of distance running. And I had a rub in with him in cross country. So we were at Mac Butler my sophomore year, and he was like, he told his group of Lincoln guys, they were really good at the time, execute Order 66, which, I mean, Star Wars reference. And then he just went and dropped everyone. But I was feeling good within the first mile of the race, you know, a little bit of a cocky sophomore. And I was like, bring it. Like, yeah, yeah. He won the race by about a minute. So I ended up getting a little bit of heat from that, but it was fun, all fun and games at that point. But I wanted my track season. I viewed it as like kind of like a vengeance arc on Zeb Mendel. I mean, great guy. I love Zeb. He's awesome. And so we get to Greeno. You probably raced at Greeno, Rod.
Yep.
And we're both in the mile, and my PR is 4:40. And so I'm talking to my dad 2 nights before, and he's like, Sam, you know what? You could go run 4:30 tomorrow. And I'm like, are you crazy? Like no, I can't. Like, stop. And he's like, you can go run 4:30 and you can go beat Zeb. Like, you have it in you right now. Because like a week before I ran at 2 fly 800, and the way things go, it worked out that like fitness wise, I should be able to run a 4:30. And so I'm like, no. But I ended up, chewing on it, and I decided that I was gonna go try and beat Zeb and get my vengeance. And so in the mile, gun goes off. Rob, oh man, what's his name? I can't remember his name. The second guy on Lincoln went and rabbited out, but I just stuck next to Zeb because I was like, if I'm gonna beat Zeb, it's only gonna be with a kick, like that. Like, that's what it came down to, and I just stuck with him for 4 laps, 200 left. I ended up started kicking, and I got him in my kick. But as I was passing him, I said execute Order 66, just to kind of like remind him of the humility or the humiliation that he put me through. And anyways, and then he came back and like almost got me. I won by like 0.3 of a second. Like, it was close, but yeah, that was definitely one of the races that helped me like get the confidence of where I was as a runner. Helped me like be mentally competitive. So after that, it was like basically Metro, last chance, state. And then Metro, I only ran the 800, and I got beat by 2 Brandon Valley guys. I ran like a 2 flat 0.7 or something like that. And so we went into last chance. I think I skipped out on last chance. I didn't run that day, I don't think. And then we got to state, and in state, before state, our coach gave us this big speech saying no one's going to be in 4 events. We're going to try and save everyone. And then unless we have to put you in 4 events. And then I look at when the schedule comes out, I'm like, crap, I'm in 4 events. First track season, I was like, oh God, I was a week, I was super nervous, a lot of pressure. And I mean, I definitely felt it because I was an inexperienced runner. And so my sophomore year state did set me up a lot for my junior year. My sophomore year state, I ran a 4:37 mile, and that put me 12th. So I felt like I had flopped because I came in seated like top 8, and I really wanted to score. So, I mean, that was starting off the state meet was a huge failure for me. 4x8, I did a start off leg, and that was, I mean, we got 5th, so we scored points. But that wasn't really anything special. That was the first day. Second day is when all my events were really, which was the 1600 medley and the 800. And so 1600, it was early in the morning, wasn't very good race for me. So I was already in my head like, oh, I'm not gonna be good. This is altitude because of blah 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 blah. And then I get to the medley, and it's like an hour and a half later. And no. It's open 8 and then medley. That's right. No. Medley then open 8. I don't know. One of the two. And so my coaches pull me aside, and with another guy. His name was Carson, super good guy. He was a senior at the time. And they're like, "Hey, are you okay if we put you in the medley? And like, are you okay?" Because I was on it for alternate. We want to put Carson in the 8, blah 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 blah. And so I was like, "Yeah, I can take it," because it's his senior year. Me and him were super, around the same times, like very very consistent with each other. And so I was like, "Yeah, he can take it." So I took the medley, and we ended up getting runner up. We got second in state that year, and it was really hard for me because we lost it in the last 3 feet, where I got beat by a fresh 400-meter guy. And so, I mean, that was another really hard loss to take as a young runner. I mean, I felt like I let down all the seniors that were on my sprint medley team. So that was super, super disappointing for me as my sophomore self. And then I look forward to the 8. I'm like, I'm just gonna make it back up in the 8. And that was I was also up in my head that was another huge loss for me. I got 22nd out of 24th, I believe, out of 24, and I was seated like 7th. And so that was another like, oh man, like crap. So my sophomore year of state for me was definitely a learning experience, I would say. It was harsh, it was ugly, but it set me up really well for my junior year. So now, I'm hungry all summer. I'm now an upperclassman, and I'm faced with the choice to move to Jefferson. And they basically told me I had to go because of boundaries. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe I'll try and get to like a Lincoln or something, because they were really good at the time. I had better rapport with the team over there. So I tried to get into Lincoln, but I did not get accepted through open enrollment. So I moved with Jefferson, and at that time, that was probably the best move for me to go over to Jefferson, because there was a lot of solid guys that went from Roosevelt to Jefferson. So I stayed with the team that I was majority the closest with, and a lot of it was underclassmen. There was one junior turning senior that moved over, and then there was another guy named Xander Grenz, he's a great guy, moved with me, and we ended up being team captains for cross country, and me and Xander did. And so we trained all summer. We worked hard. All the Jefferson guys did. I mean, Kieran Weigelt made an insane amount of improvement. He wasn't even at state his freshman year, but he was, a pretty important guy to our team. His sophomore year, I mean, Elijah Johnson made really big improvement, also super important. Jack Wagner, Coach Wagner's son, super important guy to the team for cross country. And we overall had a pretty solid team, I'd say. We also had another freshman in there, Seth Borchers, who was really good. And so we all worked our butts off, and I think we got 8th in state that year. And I mean, we were like, we're just starting, like we're only going to build up from this. And that set us off for my junior year track. So by the end of cross country, I run my half marathon out in Indianapolis that I was talking about, which is what I like to do after cross country seasons, is run a half, see where I'm at. And then in the middle of, January, basically, I start feeling this pain inside my groin. And so we're thinking, oh man, I probably just got something going on with my adductor muscle, like nothing too crazy. And so I ran on it. And then I kept running on it as it kept getting worse and worse and worse. And I had trouble walking after practices. I had trouble walking during the school day. It was really hard. Track starts. I ran a 4:35 mile up at SDSU. Felt really solid about that. Came back, ran a 2:02 800 down in Omaha. And I did a lot of relays after that. I did like 4x4s, 4x8s, medleys, because we had to qualify for Howard Wood. So we got qualified, and the first time I broke 2 was actually inside of a medley at Brandon Valley when I had to make up some ground. I ran a 1:58, which I was ecstatic. Then probably one of the most influential races in my junior year, while I'm still feeling, this hip pain that I was really struggling with at the time. I ran a 158 at the Pure Legion Relays Open. And so that was like, okay, like I'm here. And that put me at second in the state at that time, right behind Simeon. And that was right before my birthday. So for my birthday, I got to be second in state. That was pretty cool. But yeah, it was solid. And then I just kept eating it up. I mean, I PR'd again at Greeno. I ran a 157. I actually set the Greeno 800 record last year with that 157, which I was super ecstatic about. That was the goal because my old coach, Casey Shade, was the one that held it. So it was super cool for me to break my coach's record. I felt like that was dope.
Casey's
And
still
then
out there dropping
again,
fast 800s too.
yeah, Casey is, yeah, he's crazy fast. He's crazy fast for an old dude. Yeah, he's great though. So yeah, I ran that, and then I think I was around that 157 range. I might have PR'd a couple times, like milliseconds, you know. And then we get to, you know, the state track meet, and I'm telling my coaches, and I'm like, oh man, I don't think I can run all these events. Like I'm struggling. And then they're at that point, that put them in a horrible position because, you know, their top runner is saying that he can't run prelims or anything, and the difference between like the prelims and the medley and the 4x4, the difference between me and the next guy in the medley would have been 5 seconds in the 8, and it would have been, you know, 3 seconds in the 400. So at that point, you're kind of like, I don't really think we can qualify without that. So, you know, we ran the 4x8, and we actually won state champs in that, and that was super cool memory to have. I think I got the baton second, and I just paced with Parker Fitzpatrick. He now goes to Augie, and I ended up kicking him at the end. That was a good race. I split a 156. So at that point, I kind of knew. I was like, okay, I can run faster than what I have been. And my next race after that, I believe, was my 800. No. It was medley prelims. Medley prelims. I ran up against Josh Martin and from Aberdeen. And me and Josh are good buds. I like Josh. And we were messing around beforehand, and we ended up running. I ended up winning that medley qualification, so we just went to finals, which was really helpful for my team. And then at that point, I actually collapsed after my medley, and I was like, I can't walk. Like my hip was really, really bugging me. We didn't know what was going on because it wasn't an adductor strain, but we knew that, but we didn't know what else it was, and it was a struggle. And so I'm like, all right, I guess I'm just gonna have to take a lot of ibuprofen tomorrow, see what I can do. Next day, I wake up, it's 800 first. So I run the 800. I think 800 and 4x4 prelims were that day. So I run the 800 and I get fourth, and I was so close to second, 0.23 off of second place. It was a really hard loss for me just because I wanted to be, you know, relevant basically. I didn't feel like fourth place was as relevant as I wanted it to be. But yeah, I lost to Keenan Ardalis and Alex Otten, who were great athletes. I don't know if Keenan's still running, but I know Alex is at Augie. He's doing super well over there. So then went to 4x4 prelims, and I got beat by a guy from Aberdeen, but we got second, and so we qualified in the 4x4, which is really what we kind of wanted to do. And I collapsed after both those races, had trouble walking, and so I went home, and I'm like, I told my parents, I was like, I don't know if I can, do this again. Like I'm really hurting. And so I go talk to my coach that night at the school, and we're all doing recovery, and he's like, I understand that you are hurting, but you're almost there. And so I held on to it. And I remember having this conversation with Coach Wagner. I said, what can I do to hit 150 next year? And he's like, well, you're thinking a little too far ahead. We'll get there, but he told me it was definitely possible. And that was one thing that gave me confidence going into the next day. And yeah. So then we go into the last day, third day. This was the first time in state history. I think it was 3 days state track. And medley was up first for me, and then 4x4 finals. So me and my teammate Kieran, he was the alternate for the medley, start running, and I on my warm up, I like break down. I'm crying. I'm in so much pain that I can barely move my leg. And so I'm like, Kieran, I think you're gonna have to take this. Like, I really don't know if I can do this. And this is what teammates are for. Kieran looked at me in the eye and said, "Look, if anyone can do it, you can do it. Like, you have the times to back up whatever you need to do." And so, I went over to my coaches and I told them, they're like, "Sam, you got this." They were really uplifting, and I went out and ran it. First step off the line, getting that. I knew I had to go. I knew I had to lead, but I knew I had to beat Simeon, so that was definitely a factor. So I had a lead, and I mean, Simeon just talked me down because first step off the line, I felt like that tearing sensation in my groin that I've always been feeling the whole season. It was really rough, and so I split like my slowest 800 that day. I ran a 2 flat, which was really unfortunate. So it was the slowest 800 for my championship part of my season, and I felt like I let down the team. But we got runner up in the medley again, which was really frustrating. But and then I collapsed at the end of the medley, and I could not move. Like, I could not. Like, there's videos of it, there's pictures of it. I mean, it was kind of embarrassing. But um, my trainer comes and pulls me off the track. I'm limping out. I'm crying. I can't walk at all because my left leg is basically falling off. Well, that's how it felt, anyways. But my trainer at the time, Eric Page, he's like, "Yeah, you're done. You're not running again," and that was super, super unfortunate. I definitely felt that a little extra deep. But so that ended up my junior track season, and then I actually didn't consider leaving Jefferson. I'm going to graduate from Jefferson, blah 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 blah, and I continued through the summer. I tried to train on it for cross country, wasn't working, so we went to the doctors, and they were like, "Yeah, you got a pretty bad labrum tear. We'll get you in an MRI to see how bad it actually is." Again, like, it doesn't really know what you did, it doesn't really show how well, but it'll show if you have one or not. So went in. I hate needles, by the way. So the MRI was terrifying, so scary. But we did it. I went into the MRI. They were like, "Yeah, you definitely got that. So we're gonna go and we're gonna see if you can run on it. We're gonna put cortisone shots in, blah 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 blah." So we did that, and it was just as bad. It wasn't really working. It maybe worked like a week, and then I was like, "Yeah, this is bad." And I think what were you saying?
So what was the timeline on this? So you experienced, obviously, at the race was in the spring, and how long did
Yep.
it take for you to kind of figure out, like, hey, I need to seek out this medical intervention?
It's not
That
recovery.
probably took, and middle June, actually, we were doctoring, and then so pretty quick afterwards. And then July 29th is when I had my surgery. So, like, this is all within like a 2 month time frame. So it happened very quickly. But I trained up till the day of my surgery. I actually woke up at 3 a.m. and went on a run the morning of my surgery. So I had to get my, I had to hit, the joke was I had to hit my weekly mileage. So, but yeah. So then I get to my surgery and I'm on crutches for 4 weeks after that. The team did support me through that. It was great. Did my crutches. That was probably the hardest part, was going from running everywhere basically to barely being able to walk. First week afterwards, I was pretty much bedridden. 2 weeks, I was finally moving around on crutches. By 3 weeks, I felt like I probably could have been able to walk pretty fine, but they have to do 4 weeks, and then you start another like week easing off of them. So, I mean, that was really hard mentally as an athlete to basically be, to be super humbled. Like, it was quite a pretty big loss. And so, because I was losing my senior cross season, which is where I kind of learned to love running, which was really, really hard. So confidence was totally broken through that. I had to basically bring myself up from ground zero. My team did surround me. They were great. I got off my crutches. and I started PT basically, and the first start of PT was really, really hard. They put this thing called like a blood flow restriction, BFR, whatever, and they put it around my leg, and all my PT was squeezing my muscles, and it was difficult because it's basically like your leg is getting strangled, and you can't like do anything about it, and you have to squeeze, hold it, and like I'd break out in sweats. It hurt, and like I'm like, why is it so hard for me to squeeze my leg muscle? Like, why is it having this effect on me? I literally, like 3 months ago, I was running 800s, and I was like, oh my god. So that was really, really like another thing that just like PT, it does a really good job of breaking you down just to build you up, kind of. I don't know if you guys have ever done PT or stuff like that, but
Oh yeah.
I think we've all gone through it at some point or not. Us runners, we like running and not doing things that are not running. So PT is
yes.
hard for all of us, but I got to listen to doctors, right?
Yeah.
So what then, like going through the PT, how were you directed? Maybe through coaches or beyond that, to get back into actually running again.
Yeah. So first off, my coaches at Jefferson were like, hands off, you're just with your PT, which actually ended up being great. I had a 7th period gym class where I did my PT every day. So yeah, that was really helpful. And then I made the decision to switch, November, that I was switching over to O'Gorman. And that just happened. My little sister was there. It was difficult getting her rides to school in the morning. It was, they want her to, she would be the only kid to go all the way through Catholic schools, and they really want to do that. So I looked at him. I was like, yeah, I mean, I'll help her out. She had some bullying issues over there. I want to go out and help her out. So big brother moved over there, and Strand, that's when the coaching switched over to Strand. And Strand, and that's actually right before, after I got cleared. I got cleared December 22nd. And so that was basically my time where I'm just getting over to O'Gorman. So what I did, getting back into running, was from October, I just started running, and it was like water running in water. And then I went from water running to treadmill running, but my treadmill running, I was running like at 8-minute pace for 30 seconds, and I was gassed. Like I could not, like it was so bad. And I'm like, what? I just was able to do this. What's going on here? And then I'm like, oh, well, trust the process. And so I chose one word to look for in everything, and that one word was progress. And so anytime I would maybe hit a PR on a lunge squat, which was like maybe 60 pounds, it's progress. Like that was one mindset thing that I did that was able to propel me forward throughout my injury process, because definitely coming back was really hard mentally. And I think coming back from like any serious injury, there's a little bit of almost PTSD there. That's like anytime you feel one twinge in your hip, you're like, oh my god, like I'm gonna fall apart, I need to fully stop, blah 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 blah.
Getting worse.
Yeah, like I'm not, it's not working. And so I mean, I definitely struggled with that. And the coaches were great on that part. So they were like, you'll be great. I mean, my PTJ, best person ever. Like, helped me through it
Avera
all.
Performance Center.
Yep.
Oh yeah, I know Jay. I've seen him a few times.
Yeah, do you like Jay?
Yeah, I like Jay a lot. Yep.
Yeah. He is a great PT for runners. So, I mean, yeah, coaches, once I got fully cleared, they put me with Avera. So one of the other main reasons I was going over to Gorman is they work with Avera very closely now. I don't know if they did when you were there, but very closely with Avera. So anytime I did have something flare up, I could go see my PT right away. I could just walk into his office and be like, hey, like this is going on. He'd lay me down on the floor, do a couple things, and he's like, all right, we're going to adjust this way or just that way. And have him really involved with my training was super helpful to get me back to where I was. Strand actually hasn't really dipped too much into my training yet, just because like Derek Furley from Avera, and all the sports people there are basically I signed up for a program and they've been training me all winter.
Awesome.
So that's kind of my journey back to running. So my journey back has been definitely up and down for sure.
Yeah, I think, when you're in high school and you get all those injuries, it's very easy to feel like you're stuck. Everything comes in seasons. It's like cross country and track, and that's it. It's
Mhm.
not like marathons and half marathons when you're out of school, because you can sign up for those whenever you want, right? There's not as much pressure if you have an
Mhm.
injury, especially if you're not like competing at a professional level. So yeah, I definitely get that. I had a lot of stress fractures, and every time I would get a pain in my foot or in my shin, I'd be like, oh no, time to not do anything at all for
Yeah.
a while.
I mean, yeah, injuries suck. The mental side is super duper hard to get through. I mean, my biggest advice on, the mental side of injury is trust the process. Like, I mean, as runners, that's kind of what we do anyways, right? But you're not going to feel good every day with injury, and coming back from it's going to be really hard because of those little things. The little things in my hip are like, oh, I need to stop. No, maybe just take the next day a little bit lighter. Where it's like you're going to be okay, and you need to surround yourself with people that are supportive of that. Like, um, my girlfriend at the time, or we're still dating. She was great support through my injury. I mean, super, super, super good person to lean on. Super, super helpful. I mean, those people. I mean, the Vera staff, always uplifting. My parents, huge supporters. My dad actually started a whole YouTube channel to record my races so he could analyze them.
Very
So
cool.
yeah, my dad is definitely my dad and my mom. I'd say they're tied for number one supporters. Um, yeah, I mean, what they did to me is like, Sam, how bad do you want it? Because even through my injury, I still had goals for my track season. So I was like, I need to hit this goal, so I need to do this now. And that's what kept me doing the little things right. Because as runners, sometimes we don't like to do the extra stretching or the extra strength or
The
rolling out.
mobility, the recovery.
In high school especially, those are the things that set you apart from everyone else. Because
Yeah.
every kid's going out and running fast miles at this point with all the new shoes and stuff, but not every kid is stretching. Not every kid is eating correctly. Not every kid is sleeping the correct amount. Not every kid is even doing recovery as good as they can. Like
Eating the
recovery,
right
recovery,
food.
recovery.
Yeah.
Yeah, running isn't a sport; it's a lifestyle. Like weird, funny quote, but I mean, it definitely is. Because if I wasn't running, I'd probably be eating whatever I want, staying up late, playing video games. But I can't do that with my running. It's changed my whole lifestyle.
So, kind of. So once you started getting past then the injury a little bit, how did you transition back into running and then um, into track season again? How did that look?
It basically, I started out with 1 mile. Yep, that was it. 1 mile every day. And then I started coming into doing some speed work, and that's where I really started finding improvement. Was elevation speed workouts on treadmills at Avera, mixed with flight tens with and then I actually have built up to 2 miles over the last 2 months. Like, it's been very, very slow build up right now. If I wasn't at nationals, I would just be working on building up to 3 right now. Um, but my training was basically speed work on treadmills and long interval sessions. So I work with Derek Furley a lot. My workout yesterday was uh, 18 by 30 seconds. Actually, let me pull it up. Hold on. Sorry, gotta go find my train heroic here. It was first set was a 1 at 5 minute run at like lactate threshold. So for me, that was 10 meters per second or 10 miles per hour. Then it went, my workout yesterday was 7 by 30 seconds on with 30 seconds off at 12.5 miles an hour. 6 by 30 seconds on, 45 seconds off at 13.5 miles per hour. And then 5 by 30 seconds on, 60 seconds off at 14.5 miles per hour. And it took me a long time to build up to that, but that workout has basically been my bread and butter, along with something equivalent to 800-meter repeats, which is like 6 by 220 at 11 miles an hour or something like that. Like those are the workouts that I get my most mileage in one, where I get, anywhere from 3 to 5 miles in, plus aerobic work. And, those are the workouts that have been like really improving me. I mean, when I first started those workouts, I wasn't even at 12. I was starting at 9 miles an hour, which is like a little bit under or over 6 minute pace. So like they weren't really fast like they are now. So that was kind of like my workouts that got me back to running fast in track season. And then Tuesdays, Thursdays, and sometimes, Saturdays, I'll go and do mileage. And my mileage right now, I just ran 2 miles on a track today. Light work, nothing crazy, recovery. Because I noticed when I was running, like I first started out like fast 2 miles because I wanted to get my intensity up so I could, have a better aerobic base than whatever, blah, 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 blah. And I ended up finding out that like, man, my body can't handle 5 hard days a week. So I've turned those into basically like recovery days. And on those days, I'll do a little extra stretching. I have this thing called the SAM routine. No pun intended. It's a strength and mobility routine for my hips that I do every day. Well, try to, sometimes I don't do it. And then I'll do, I take a lot of like multivitamins because that nutrition aspect was super important in me getting back. Like a lot of clean stuff, like Clean Recovery. Like that's a brand, not like, do you guys know what Clean is? Yeah.
I don't think I've had any interactions with their products.
They're a really solid product. I can probably go find, there's probably something around here. Anyways, yeah, so I use that a lot. Clean Recovery, Clean Pre-Workout, Clean Protein, Clean Creatine, like a lot of that stuff that just helps me make myself stronger, faster, and ready for the next day. And then last thing I do is those Normatec legs. I use those quite regularly to just basically a reset button for the next day, And then yeah, thank you, Dad. This type of stuff. So this is like my Clean BCAA. That's one. And so amino acids, super important. And then this is the pre-workout, and they're in little containers like this. And then like the protein is in like this big one, and there's a bag. And anyways, yeah, really great product. Helps me do a lot of stuff.
Well, I appreciate the attention to detail and the focus on the small things that you've been working on. And so, with all this focus on coming back, you have nationals coming up. How did you get to that point now for this year?
Oh yeah. Well, my first state hunters at DWU, and I had an interaction with Simeon, and Simeon's like, "Man, I heard you want to race an 800," and then he talked about how they're trying to hype up Howard Wood this year, and I was like, I want to be in that special 8. And so originally I was just gonna do like a 400 and maybe a 200 and just like relax and just have fun. I didn't really have any goals for indoor, but after that conversation, it got me fired up a little bit, and I was like, you know what, I want to go be on that level. So I went out and I was just like, I just need a poster of where I'm at. So I went to DWU, and I wanted my city time in at 2:03, and my dad was like, come on, man, like be for real, I'm putting you in at 2 flat. And I was like, okay, Like, you know, I still had that first race back from injury. I don't know what I'm doing, but I ended up running a 2:01. Like, it was right there, and I ended up winning that race. And I remember it being really easy, but the nerves beforehand were horrible. They were probably more nervous than I've been at state, more nervous than I was for coming to nationals. Super bad. Let alone I was in a college heat, which sucked. To have my first race back against some college dudes, and I'm like, oh man. But I ended up winning it, and I felt a huge confidence boost. And it felt really, really smooth, really, really quick, really, really fast. So I was like, you know what? I can go faster. And I basically even split it. I ran a 60-60. In the 800, you want a +2 positive split. So 60-62, and you're at 2:02. Like, that's how you should be running it. And then it's good for you to have a 2 to 5 second. If you're over 5 seconds, you're probably going too fast out on your first lap. But so my second race was at SDSU against more college guys, except they're D1 college guys. So I was even more nervous in my second race than my first race. And I actually threw up at the line because of my nerves. Like, it was horrible. I've never been so nervous. Like, my nerves the first two races were really, really bad. And so the gun goes off. I actually got boxed in my first 400. It was inexperience. I'm racing against 22-year-olds that have more experience than me and that are pretty quick. So I got boxed in right away. And I found, going into my 500 mark, I found an opening, and I ended up shooting through that. And I ended up negative splitting that race. I ran a 60 and then a 57.84. And that was a 157. So I was an indoor PR, and I was like, man, I just crushed two. Like, super excited. I got second that race. I'm like, oh my God, like, super stoked. So that was probably the race that set me up. And I'm like, okay, wait a minute. I ran 157. That's enough to qualify me for Adidas. I negative split it. So I'm like, what can I do? What can I do here? I look at Nike and New Balance, and they're 156.00 for the championship heat, 158 for the emerging elite. And so I try and get into the emerging elite. I got in at Nike, but they were full at New Balance. But I really wanted the New Balance backpack. So I'm like, I'm qualifying for that backpack. Like, I want it. And so, I mean, with that goal in mind, I now had a goal that I was chasing after. I was hungry. I was confident, which, you know, if you have a goal and you're hungry and you're confident, that's a dangerous athlete. Because, I mean, there's very few things that'll stop a person at that point. I mean, so I came in and I'm confident. I'm racing against some SDSU guys. They're super stoked. I'm super stoked because that's where I'm committed to college. And SDSU has been great helping me through my injury and stuff, like Rod. He's super great. Love Rod. So I raced him. I put my seat time in at 156, or no, at 157, so I could go into a faster heat. And I got into the only heat that race because it was a smaller meet. And so I was against a 154 guy, and I was like, crap. So I was like, oh, whatever. So I went out with him, and I think his name was Andrew Moeller and Riley Bauer were the guys that I was racing with, and a couple other unattached people I did not recognize. And so my first 400, I just focused on staying, you know, a step or two behind them because that's all I needed to be. And if I run with them, I'll run a fast time. And then I think my mistake in that race, because I'm a very analytical person when I go to racing, my mistake was from 400 to 500, I let off the brake because I was like, okay, I can relax now because they put me into a time where I'll be able to break 156. And that was a mistake. So going 200 left, now I'm in no man's land. And I'm struggling to catch up. I don't want to fall behind. So it's kind of like, oh, crap. I ran a 156.05. And keep in mind, for the championship race, you needed 156.00. So I thought I had missed it. I'm like, oh my gosh, no. And so we emailed New Balance, and we're like, hey, like, this time is so close. Can you please accept it? And they're like, yeah, like, we just have the last zero there for like formality, basically. It's 156.0 is what you need. So I barely qualified.
That's awesome.
And now I'm going there, and I mean, it was a good race. I ran a 50. I think I ran 56.60. So or 56 high, 59 mid, or something like that. So, I mean, that was really, really good for me. Another confidence boost. I got second in that race. So I'm going into nationals. I'm feeling really confident, which is huge. Feeling fast, and my body's feeling good.
Which, it's just a testament to the process you've gone through, man. Like, to be able to do that, coming back from injury, and as you're saying, like minimal amounts of running, like that's pretty incredible. So huge congratulations. That's really exciting. And so that's coming up then this coming weekend. Yeah, tell us a little bit about what you expect to experience out there. Do you have any goals, expectations, or how are you feeling?
I do have some big goals. So my number one goal out there is to run. I hope the plane doesn't crash. I hope I don't die. Whatever. Blah blah blah. So first time on a plane, so a little nervous, but yeah. I mean, first goal is to get there. Goal while there is to stay focused, not get distracted. Big city, ocean. I don't want to do anything that's gonna like affect my performance. So first goal is to stay distracted. Now my racing goal, we have a spreadsheet. My dad made up a spreadsheet with me of all the people in the race. So from Aaron Solomon to the slowest guy in the championship heats, and I should be in heat 3, maybe heat 2, depending on how they break it up. I want to go win my heat. So the O'Gorman school record was set by Linder's son in 14, and I think you were there for that.
Oh yeah, I ran with Tegan.
Yep, and he ran a 154. So I want to go beat that school record before it even counts. So I know, so I can have a pretty solid time going into the season. So my goal is 153 high. Now that is a 2-second PR from, well, basically, I went from a 156 mid to a 153 high. So a 1.7 or whatever. PR for me. And here's the reasons why I think I can hit that. One, my hip is fixed. Like, that's the first reason. 2, it's one of the fastest tracks in the world, if not the fastest. I mean, hydraulic pressed, banked, 200, literally made to be the fastest track in the world. World records have been broken on it. I'm feeling pretty confident going into it. 3, I mean, the reason why I think I can hit that is I'm going to be with fast guys. So the idea behind it is if I'm in a heat with a whole bunch of 155 guys, the winning time is going to be 153 or under because everyone's going to be pushing themselves to their max. So, I mean, in the 800, you could probably take a second or two if it's close like that. And so I'm like, well, if I use my big frame, if I use my long legs, and if I use my speed, because if I'm able to run 23 miles per hour, that's going to allow me to be super successful in the 400. And if I'm fast enough to be successful in the 400, I'm fast enough to be successful in the 800. So I'll be able to use my height, my speed, and my frame because I'm almost 6'5", and I'm about 160 pounds, which is pretty big for a runner. And I think that all these attributes are going to let me be super successful there.
And so, tactics wise, how do you like to race once you're actually on the track?
Fast. I don't know. I mean, with a race where you're going in as seed 1, you have a little bit of different seed strategy than a race if you're going in and you're just a whole bunch of fast guys. So, I mean, like when I'm racing in South Dakota, I like to go take it out from the front and control the pace just because I hate living by other people's terms. So when I'm racing, I run by my terms. I'm not going to let someone go out and burn me out. I'm going to go burn out someone else. And I'm going to control the field as best as I can. I want to be 1 or 2 position, and then I want to kick at that 300-meter mark, 400-meter mark usually in South Dakota. Now with these fast guys, if I kick at the 400-meter mark, I might feel that in the last 100 when they're kicking at 250, and then I lose what I wanted to get. So for tactics wise, going into Boston, knowing I want to win the heat, I'm thinking of sit and kick, right? I'm going in and I'm analyzing the field. They're 400 times, 1,000 times. whatever. I'm like, okay, this guy's more of a 1,000 runner, so his aerobic is going to be pretty decent, but his 400 is only like a 52, 53. So for me to think that, I could probably outkick this guy, whatever, or something like that. That's kind of my mindset. So I want to go in and cement myself in second and embrace the suck. So Alan Webb, what he told me when we were eating at Johnny Carino's is, you need to make the decision tonight, right now, that you are going to feel the worst pain that you've ever felt running an 800. Like, you are going to go out and, balls to the walls. And I mean, this is the mindset of an Olympian. So I got to take that to heart. So I'm definitely chewing on the amount of suck that I will be going through. But I want to cement myself in second and don't give an inch the entire race until I pass. And then I want to open up a gap in the last probably, 200, 150 meters and go in and try and win my heat.
That's
and
an awesome plan.
I think that's kind of my strategy for that, because can't kick too early, can't kick too late, and you can't make a move late in the 800. I mean, you have to go out fast. Otherwise, you're never going to have time to make it up, because you're only slowing down. You're only slowing down in the 800.
Well, I appreciate the attention to detail that, really diving into your opponents and all the other guys. Like, I think, yeah, again, just a testament to your attention to detail and doing the small things. Like, those are the things that set runners like you apart from other guys. And so, yeah, super excited to see how it goes. We'll all be following along and watching the journey.
Yeah, it's awesome to see where running in South Dakota really is going, especially, high school.
Yeah, I mean, Sawyer Clarkson's also going to be at Nationals with me and Simeon. And then Dylan Payer from Yankton will be running in New York for Nationals. So we'll have 4 guys from South Dakota in 2 different national meets.
Do you know what events those guys are targeting?
Simeon, I think, will be in the 16 and the 800. And then I believe myself, I'll just be in the 8. Sawyer Clarkson will be in the 3,200. Dylan Payer will be in the 800. So a lot of mid-distance guys in South Dakota right now are picking it up.
Man, that's really encouraging, to see, yeah, guys like yourself inspiring the next generation and, lifting just the competitive level of the state is huge. And, Rod and I were just trying to share the stories of, like, man, all this cool stuff is happening right now. And definitely a lot of reasons to be paying attention to, especially, guys like you in the state. So we're super excited to follow along your journey.
Yeah, good luck at your upcoming meet, and we'll be sure to follow along.
Yeah, I'll keep you guys updated. There should be a live stream that I can send you guys if you guys want to watch it. But that's basically everything.
We'll share those links and all that stuff so that everybody can follow along and tune in and keep track of what's going on and be able to root for you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, well, I think that's all I had for today. Rod, do you have any other burning questions for Sam while we got him on?
I can't think of any other questions right now. So if you don't mind, is there something else you wanted to touch on, Sam? Otherwise, we're going to get going on to our last closing questions for you.
Last thing for me to touch on is just send the message to do the little things right. And if you do the little things right, the little things will take you to little places, and the little places will take you to bigger places, and the bigger places take you to the best places. It's all a system. Like, that's the message.
And I got to quote Benson. You have to be ready so you don't have to get ready.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, all right. So last but not least, we have 2 questions that we like to ask all our guests at the end of the podcast. So one of the questions is, if you knew you were going out for your last run, where would you go and for how long would you run?
Like, I can go anywhere in the world?
You can go anywhere you would want to. but it's the last time you would be running. So would you want to run an 800, or would you want to run for as long as possible?
If it's my last run ever, I would say that I'd want to go on a leisurely mileage run through, some beautiful part of like Canada, or, just be able, like, my favorite part about running miles is seeing the views. And in South Dakota, you don't get to see much of them. So, um, probably maybe even in the Black Hills, I just go someplace where I can run, be free, and look at pretty stuff.
Yeah, it's a good choice. Yeah, the Mickelson Trail out in the hills, and there's a lot
Yeah.
of cool places to get lost out there.
Yeah.
So, given you're in the Black Hills, this might be an indicator of your next answer. But if you were out on a run and you ended up getting mauled by an animal, what animal would you prefer to be mauled by?
I mean, I don't know. Bears are pretty scary. There's some bears out in the Black Hills. Dang, that's intense. A squirrel?
I
I
dig
feel like
it.
that would hurt the
Okay.
less.
Like
Yeah.
a normal sized squirrel, a big squirrel,
Tiny squirrel?
tiny squirrel. Okay, I appreciate that.
Maybe bite my ankles or something.
Well, I love that answer. Cool. Anyways, that is, yeah, just a fun way we like to close out the show. So, yeah, is there any way that people can follow along for your journey, maybe social media tags or anything like that that you wish to share to the audience?
Oh yeah, I mean, my Instagram is sjcastle395. Follow me on Instagram, and I'm putting out some posts. Fast Llama Running. That's my dad's YouTube channel. He also has a Twitter page, I think it's Fast Llama Running Cass. Here, I'm pulling it up right now. Twitter is Fast Llama Cass. YouTube is also Fast Llama Cass. I like llamas. They're one of my favorite animals, and I like running fast. So that's how we kind of came up with that. And then my Instagram, of course, and then I'll post some videos, some just fun videos on TikTok, and that's Sam Castle 14. So
Awesome. Yeah,
those are my social plugs.
We'll drop that in the description then on YouTube and our podcast as well. But yeah, I think that will close out our show then here today. Thanks so much again, Sam, for joining us. We appreciate your time, and yeah, best of luck to you as you go off to Boston for nationals.
Well, thank you.
Yeah,
I
good luck,
appreciate the
man.
opportunity. Yeah, man, you guys are awesome. Great way to enrich South Dakota running. You guys are doing a good job at it.
All right.
Hey, thanks for reaching out. That's how we build connections and are able to put people on. So yeah, if you're out there and you're listening to this and you're putting work in South Dakota, send us an email, find us on Instagram, and we'll talk. We'll make sure to get your story out there.
I mean, yeah, I definitely look into some. We have a group chat with everyone around the state, and I definitely look into some guys like Joe Cross or Sawyer Clarkson even. I mean, those are some great guys to look through in A. So,
Well, yeah, and I know Joe to an extent already, and some of the other guys as well. So who knows? Maybe we'll just keep them coming, keep on learning about everybody's stories, and yeah, share all the cool stuff happening in South Dakota.
yeah, I mean, awesome. Thank you so much for the experience, guys. Love it.
Right on. Well, thanks,
Hey,
Sam. We'll catch you next time. Okay.
Awesome.
All right.
See you guys.
See ya.